Question number 2 says, if f of x equals x squared, x is greater than 0, which describes the domain of the inverse of f of x, which is the square root of x. Okay, let's just do a quick graph. And here in green is the f of x function. And I'm first going to just do x squared. So I'm going to do in a dotted line here. This is the f of x equals x squared. Okay, what does the x greater than 0 mean? That just means positive numbers. And positive numbers on the x-axis are going towards the right. So I'm going to make this here solid. Okay, basically it's saying it could be any of these values on the x, and then it goes up in y. Okay. Okay, now we have to do the inverse of this, which is, they're telling us it looks like this, okay? If f of x is, then which describes the domain and range. So this is the new graph. There in red, that is the inverse, that notation up there, the -1, is the inverse of x squared, which is square root of x, okay? And basically all they want to know is what's the red domain there. Okay, so remember, domain is going from left to right. This refers to the x-axis, okay? So if you make all these blue lines, again, we're focusing on the red graph here. If I keep going this direction, I don't start on the red graph here until x is equal to 0. And the last thing you touch on that is the arrow, which is going towards positive infinity. So that is my domain, positive infinity. Remember, you always use parentheses, and the only option that has that is D. Now let me go ahead and double check and show you guys what the range is. Okay, range is the y-axis, and I say you go from bottom to top. Okay, so let's go from the bottom to top. Let me use a different color. Let's use blue. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Okay, it touches the graph, and it's touching the graph on the y-axis, which is the range here, at 0. And the last thing it touches is the arrow, which is going towards positive infinity. So the range is also this. The range is also the same thing. That means your output values are from 0 all the way up to infinity, including 0. And so that would only be these 3 options. And the only correct one that has it is D. So question number 2, the answer is D. Question number 4, the relationship between the length of a pendulum. Remember, a pendulum is, I'm playing this game with my kids, is you tie a string to the ceiling, kind of, and on there is a ring. And this ring can kind of go back and forth. And so that's what a pendulum means. It kind of goes back and forth. So the relationship between the length, I'm going to underline this or highlight it, the length of the pendulum, L, that's what the variable L means in feet. Okay, so that's that position right there. Then it tells us the period is called T, and I think T stands for time, which is measured in seconds. That's its units, so that's T. Okay, now we're going to use our reading skills here. To the nearest foot, okay, here's, which one was foot, L or T? Length or time? Well, time is not measured in feet, but here it verifies this, watch this. To the nearest foot, which is the length of the pendulum? So I see a variable, it is L. L is an unknown. Which is the length of the pendulum? Okay, what does that mean? We're solving for L. Get L by itself. Now, this one also verifies it for us with period 8 seconds. Which one is 8 seconds or time? Is it length or time? Well, time is measured in seconds, right? So that means here T equals 8. So let's use all of our information here and just copy out this formula. T equals 2 pi times the square root of length divided by 32. Okay, and all we have to do is just substitute everything we have. So T equals 8. And that's what we talked about, right? We are solving for this L. This L here we need to get by itself. So as a reminder, in PEMDAS, you are going this direction when you need to solve, which means I need to do addition and subtraction first, which I don't have. Now I need to do multiplication and division. So I'm going to multiply or divide both sides by 2 pi because I have multiplication here. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Pi divided by pi is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4 pi. Okay, to get rid of the radical, it's an exponent. And you need to just locate the index, which is right here. So if I square both sides, you're going to get this. On this side, the power of 2 and the root cancel with the radical sign. And you're just left with L divided by 32. On this side, you get to use something called the power rule, which means that that 2 goes to both of them now. So that'll be 4 squared and pi squared. And I'm actually not going to evaluate now. I'll tell you why in 30 seconds. This is division, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 32. How do you make 32 a fraction? You put it over 1. And so you get 32 divided by 32 is just 1. So you just have L equals 32 times 4 squared all over pi squared. 32 4 squared divided by pi squared. Let's put in our calculator. So I have 32 times 4 squared divided by pi squared. My pi is in yellow above the division sign, so second pi, and then I'm going to square that. 51.876. 51.876. 51.876. And the closest choice that we have there is C. So the answer for number 4 is C. Alright, question number 9 here is telling us which is a solution. So we just have to solve this. How do I know to solve? You always solve equations. So let's go ahead and write this problem here. Notice that positive 4, though, is not inside the radical sign. I like to draw a line down my equal sign to show the left and the right side. I have here PEMDAS. Remember, when you're solving, you're actually going from the bottom to the top. So here I have addition. So I'm going to subtract, or the opposite is subtracting. So I have the cube root of x plus 1 equals negative 4. The next thing I'm going to do is, now that the radical sign is isolated, meaning there is nothing in front or behind this, I'm going to go and identify the root, and I'm going to take the power of 3 to each side. So this cancels, and the radical sign, so you're just left with x plus 1. Over here, this means negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. So that's positive 16 times negative 4, so that's going to be negative 64. And if you subtract 1, you will get x equals negative 65, which is choice what? That is choice A. Number 9, the answer is A. Alright, let's go over question number 11 here, which is the equation of the function if I take and I do some kind of transformations, that's what the apostrophe means there, obtained by reflecting the graph of the function f of x square root x plus 3 over across the y-axis. Okay, if I write out all the letters, the question is, which letter does this refer to? I'm going to say, well, the x-axis, if you want to reflect over the x-axis, that would be making the a value negative. And that's actually choice A, but that's wrong because we don't want over the x-axis. Okay, so what we want is a b value. This reflects it when the b value is equal to negative 1. So if I make that value negative 1, and I go ahead and just write the original function, there you can see that the number to the inside the radical, but notice how it is to the left of the x, Now, none of my options have this, so what do you think we're going to do? We're going to distribute that negative sign. Negative 1x minus 3. And does that match any of our choices? That would be choice B. So this is this one. So answer for number 11 is B. Number 12 is asking us to, what is the exponential form? Exponential form just basically means you have an exponent, but more importantly, no radicals. And this, my friends, is a radical. Another way that they are saying what they want from us is rational exponents. Okay, so take a look at this x here. I have it in green. And this 3 becomes its numerator, the top of the fraction. And the yellow part is the index, or the root, which becomes its denominator, the bottom part of the fraction. And there's only one of those, which is A. Now, you don't do anything like flipping. That would be wrong. And there's no negative exponents. So the correct answer for number 12 is A. All right, number 13, which equation has no solution? So what I'm going to do is just kind of give myself hopefully lots of space to work with. And let's work with this first one. 3x minus 7 equals 4. Remember, this is already isolated, so again, I'm going to use PEMDAS. And you go this way to simplify, but you go up, which we want to solve. So let's go ahead and solve this. This is already isolated, which basically means the radical sign has nothing in front of it, and pay attention to anything behind it, like a plus, that's not in the radical sign. I'm going to locate the index or the root, which in this case is a 2. So I'm going to square both sides. The 2, the index, and the radical sign are gone, and you're left with 3x minus 7 equals 16. Again, you're going to restart with the addition and solving here. You're going to do addition and subtraction first. So add 7. And get 3x equals 23. And if you divide it by 3, you're going to get x equals 23 over 3. Okay, not a fun answer, but basically what we do is then we need to check our answer. This will help us figure out which one is a no solution. So I'm going to put 3x minus 7 equals 4. We're going to take this value and put it in for x. So now I have the square root of 3 times 23 over 3 minus 7 equals 4. Okay, then I have, how do you make this big 3 here a fraction? By putting it over 1. And because it's multiplication, you have something called factors, right? So to kind of make it visually the same, it looks like this. And what we're doing is we're just, the 3 divided by 3 is 1. So they're, we say canceling. So now you have 23 minus 7 equals 4. Square root of 16 equals 4, and 4 equals 4. So we can say that this is a solution here. But we're looking for one that has no solution. Okay, let's go ahead and try. So this was A. Let's try B down here. The cube root of x plus 2 equals 0. And for this question, number 13, let's go ahead and look here. If I subtract 2, you're going to get the cube root of x equals negative 2. And then if I adjust, the radical sign here is now isolated, which means that if I just locate the index, which is a 3, just do it to the power of 3, to the power of 3. This 3, and the radical sign are gone, you're left with x. And this is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which is negative 8. Okay, let's go ahead and check our answer now. Cube root of x plus 2, does that equal 0? And the cube root of a negative 8 plus 2 equals 0. Remember, it's a question mark, we're kind of testing this. And there are 3 identical numbers that multiply to be negative 8. And we already saw that above. It is negative 2. So basically the index tells you that you need 3 of these inside the house, these little kids that come outside the house into the scary neighborhood. But when you see those numbers from far away, it looks like just one number. And that is true, right? 0 equals 0, which means x equals negative 8 is a solution. But pay attention, if it's a solution, check means solution, then that's not, if you think about it, we don't want to, it's not a solution. We're looking for no solutions. So we'll put x for no's. All right, let's try C here. square root 2x minus 1 plus 8 equals 6. Is the radical equation isolated? It is not. So we need to subtract 8. So I have square root of 2x minus 1 equals negative 2. And now the radical sign is isolated. I'm just going to use the index or root. So we're going to square both sides. And then we're going to get cancels, cancels, cancels. You're left with just the 2x minus 1 equals 4. Add 1, I get 2x equals 5. And divide by 2, you're going to get x equals 5 halves. Let's go ahead and check that. So that's square root of 2x minus 1 plus 8 equals 6. And I'm putting that here. So the square root of 2 times 5 halves minus 1 plus 8 equals 6. Don't be lazy, that 8 is not in the radical. Put it over 1, because that's you're left with just 5 minus 1, or you think about it, if you multiply across, that would be 10 over 2, which is still 5. So you're going to get 5 minus 1 plus 8 equals 6. Square root of 5 minus 1 is 4. And square root of 4 is 2. And you add those together, you get 10. And the question is, can 10 equal 6? The answer is no. So this would be a no solution. Okay, that's the one we wanted. So our no solution here would be C. Now, I always like to make sure that this is correct by doing the other one as well. Square root of 4x plus 2 minus 4 equals 1. It's not isolated, add 4. This equals 0, and that is 5. It's isolated, so I'm just going to square it. So now I have cancels, cancels, cancels. You have 4x plus 2 equals 25. Just go a little faster here. Subtract 2, divide, and then let's check our answer. So square root of 4x plus 2 minus 4 equals 1. This is going here. Alright, put this over 1. Cancels. 23 plus 2 gives you 25. Square root of 25 is 5 minus 4, and 1 equals 1. So that's to preview that this one is a solution, but we're looking for no solution. The only one that had no solution, solution, this one was no solution, so the answer for number 13 is C. 13 is C. Alright, question number 14. Given f of x equals x plus 2 and g of x equals 4x to the third, which of the following represents f of g of x? Alright, I want you to notice that the g is in the inside. So basically you're putting g inside of f. I don't know, I have this old video game system called a Nintendo, and you know, you would take the video game and put it inside the console. So game goes inside the console, right? So that's the same concept. This g of x here is going to go inside this x. Okay, so let's write out f of x. And basically, like we said, instead of writing this x now, I'm going to do 4x to the third power. there's my substitution. Okay, now because you have addition, you don't really need to do anything here for question number 14, right? So you can drop the parentheses. And which one of those looks like in our multiple choice? And that would be what? This one is this one. 14, the answer is A. All right, question number 16 again is which of the following is not invertible? So to summarize, we had odds and we had evens. And the easiest odd we know is x to the first, which you can apply to every odd, and the easiest even we know is x to the second. So if you just draw yourself a quick graph, we've done this before, and an odd, that would be a linear, and then an even, this would be a parabola. And we've kind of tested this before, if you guys remember. Is it a function? You use the vertical line test, and it should only cross the line once. So vertical means up and down. This would pass, right? And over here, it passes. It only goes through the graph once. But to test the other one, that was the is it an invertible, or can you take the inverse? It has to pass the horizontal line test. So that goes through once, which means every odd is a function. Every odd is a function and can take the inverse. Let's look at the evens. If I put it here, it fails because it goes through 2 points. You see this? So that means that every even is a function, but you cannot take the inverse. So let me make it hopefully simple. Which one is not invertible? That's anything that is even, because we just said, right, it fails the horizontal line test. So if I look at all the evens, then only one even is right there. So the answer for number 16 is C. Number 17, which type of transformation or transformations transform the graph from f of x into the graph of f prime of x, which is just the inverse. And you have all this stuff going on. So again, that just means inverse. Or a graph moved. So if I have this graph, a times the cube root of bx minus c plus d. Alright, so let's just look at the letters we have here. I have this a value, and this is a vertical stretch. How do I know it is a stretch? It's because the number is bigger than 1. If it's smaller than 1, like 1/2 or 1/3, it would be something called a compression. So that is the a value. Now, there is nothing on the inside to the left here. That would be a b value, so we don't need that. There is no value out here, so there is no d value, but we do have a c value. Now pay attention, I'm going to do this very slowly. C, do you see how the formula has a minus sign? So c equals 2. We call this a horizontal translation. And because it's positive, it's actually going to go towards the right too. So let's see what we have over here. Horizontal shift, that's good enough. A vertical compression would be a number less than 1. We just talked about that, so not this one. And a vertical shift would be a d value, but we didn't have a d value, so not that. So that is your answer for 17. It's either A or D.